Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and welcome back to day number 15 of March Madness. Today's page map sketch comes from April of 2019, and it's actually a single page that we're going to flip to create a double page. I pulled out the Christmas at EPCOT bundle to decorate the holiday cookie stroll that we do every year, because who doesn't want to eat cookies at EPCOT? Of course, I'm going to start out with my print and cuts on my mat and send it over to my silhouette. I'm going to be using these 4 papers on my layout, and I am going to look through my blue cardstock to try to find a base for my layout. I did have to take a break because my print and cut features were ready, and this mat is just no good anymore. This is the point where I decided that the presentation paper that I had been using had basically just ruined my mat. When the silhouette cut out this image, the holiday cookie stroll moved on the mat itself, causing the mat to move, and you can see in the upper right hand corner that it did not cut out the reef properly. Because I was in the middle of creating, I decided to go ahead and try to put some washi tape on my mat and see if I can continue to use the mat. I am going to try to salvage this piece, but in the end, I do have to reprint it and recut it out because it just had too many mistakes. It was bent pretty bad, and there wasn't much that I could do to try to fix it. So I'm back to my blue paper trying to find something. I really wanted it to match the word stroll on that holiday cookie stroll. So I do end up with this blue paper. Once I get all of the pattern paper down as well as the embellishments, there's not a lot of this blue that's going to be showing. So it does kind of look very bold, but just trust the process. At this point, I'm still having troubles with the print and cut features. I even took my blade off, which you can see over in the right. I was blowing into the blade like we used to do with our Nintendo cartridges. I was trying everything that I could to make this work properly. I will tell you that working with digital content is a little more difficult than just opening up a pack of paper and a pack of embellishments and going to town. There are going to be times when you struggle like this. However, having the ability to print the sizes that I want, as well as the fact that Kellybell Designs has collections that I haven't seen anywhere else. I have never seen a holiday cookie stroll in any collection because it is very specific to EPCOT. So having those options do outweigh the struggles that you may have from time to time, at least for me. And that is a personal preference, so it may not be something that you want to work with or struggle with. It's something that you have to decide for yourself. I'm really enjoying using the Kellybell Designs. The silhouette print and cut feature is something that you have to get used to. So I would just suggest you weighing your pros and cons and deciding if it's worth it for you. It's absolutely worth it for me. I will put that out there. Because I was struggling with my mat, I did have to use my X-Acto knife on a lot of these pieces. As you can see, I did cut out a ton of pieces for this layout. I'm actually going to have a lot of cookies. This entire sheet of paper is full of cookies, and I'm going to have that at the top of my layout. We do the cookie stroll every single year, and it's always so much fun. I did also print out that tag that says everything tastes better at Disney. That one is from the snack collection. I did purchase that a while ago because we do tend to eat a lot of food at Disney, and there were several pieces in there that I really enjoyed. So the 4 pieces that I had to end up reprinting was the holiday cookie stroll, that reef, and then 2 of the stars also messed up, so I reprinted both of those. And now I am ready to get to work on my layout. So like I said in the beginning, this is a 1-page layout that was flipped to create a double page layout. I am going to change it up just a little bit, simply because when you do flip a single page, there are some things that don't really match up. And that centerpiece, which I'm going to use that yellow paper, is one of those things. Now I'm going to struggle a lot with this green paper here, as well as this red paper and the paper that has the wreaths on it. Because I knew that I had to cover up my seams, because I do not have a wide format printer, I needed to figure out a way to get all of these pieces cut and then be able to cover them up. So at this point, I'm just cutting them down. I'm using my border punches on them, as well as inking up the edges so that it has that consistency. I really enjoy the look of the inked edges on printed pattern paper. It just gives it another depth that is different than the printing that is done by big manufacturers. Obviously, they have a different type of printer than I would have here at home, but I really enjoy this inked look. So I am inking the edges up with whatever color matches the paper itself. And then this is where I'm going to start to build up my layout. I thought about at first just having that border around the edge, but I really did want to follow the sketch of having the reef paper, which is the blue paper, and that red paper go edge to edge. So as I'm trying to decide that, I do decide to go ahead and cut out my photos. Over on the far left, I have the photo of the cookie stroll. So these are all of the cookies that we need to purchase through the cookie stroll. In the middle is going to be the photo of my very favorite cookie. And I'm actually going to switch that up from what's there right now. And then right next to it is going to be a flip flap where I have a couple of the cookies. I didn't take a picture of all the cookies. I realized that later on. But we do end up purchasing all of the cookies that we need for the cookie stroll, because over on the far right hand side, you can see that our prize was this cookie stroll baking kit that came with the ability to make the cookies and then add some decorations to it as well. I also decided to go ahead and add the photos of the food that we were going to eat that day. We got some catfish with some black eyed peas and some rice. We also got a Christmas tree sushi. And then we also got tempura shrimp and some type of soup. I don't remember exactly which one that was, but those are going to be in the flip-flop as well. For the bottom photos, I did decide to do a 4x6 down there instead of the two 3x4s. This photo is of myself and Eli, and one of the photos that we could take was with this gingerbread cookie in front of the Christmas tree. So I felt like that would be a good photo to highlight. I did decide that I wanted to mat it on the blue. So before I put that yellow paper down, I did use my layering guides to cut out a blue border around that photo. And then of course using some washi tape on the back to cover up that hole that I created. I thought I could use the photo that's going to be on the left and right to cover up the seams of this blue paper. So after figuring out the placement, I cut the blue paper and then adhered it to the top and bottom so that you can see that there's a seam there, and then it's going to be covered up by my photo. Of course, I didn't get it down straight, so I did have to pull out my T-square ruler and work on getting it down straight. It's something I always struggle with. Once I got it down, then I started to work on the red paper, and I knew that I wanted to tuck the red paper in, and I also knew that I needed to have the bottom part cover up the seam because I knew I wanted the red part to be further out than the photo itself. So I'm working on trying to get the red paper down, and I do tuck it underneath the blue, but it's just not working for me. So I decided that I would go ahead and take a break and start to work on the right-hand side of the layout. I first get the yellow paper down, and this is where I change up the sketch. You can see in the upper right-hand corner that that yellow paper wasn't supposed to go to the edge of the center of the layout. So because this was a double page layout, I felt like the yellow paper did need to go to the center so that it would bring these two layouts together. I then cut the blue paper in almost the same place that I cut the left-hand side, and I adhere the blue paper down. I knew that the Holiday Cookie Stroll title was going to cover up much of the green paper, so I decided to use some of the paper that was going to be covered up to make sure that the green paper could go edge to edge. I'm going to line up the Holiday Cookie Stroll title with the green paper so I know where to cut the green paper. Once I figure that out, I really just leave the green paper on the background paper and adhere it down so that I don't mess it up. But now you can see that I have a little bit of a piece on the far right-hand side that I can cut out and use on the left. I did put some fun foam behind the Holiday Cookie Stroll so that it would pop up on the page. And then this is where I'm going to start to work on the red paper. And of course I struggle with it. I didn't cut it in the right place, so I did have to cut the red paper so that I had more above the green paper and a little bit below the green paper. And I'm gonna cover up all of the little mistakes that I'm making here with the embellishment pieces. I'm actually gonna bring that holiday cookie stroll cluster so that it flows over into the blue paper itself. And then I'm gonna use the green paper that I cut off from the right-hand side to lay over on the left-hand side. I did wanna mention that I did put a white border around the holiday cookie stroll, but because the white border was already there for the word stroll, I decided to do a double border. I ended up putting a brown border first and then a white border. So I have a brown border around everything, and it separates the white border that's already on the cookie stroll. It did take me a little bit to get that green paper down as well as the red paper on the left, but I now have my layers down at the bottom, and I start to add my photos up to the top. I first added the 4x6 and I felt like it was a little low, but then when I started to pull it up, I started to rip the yellow paper. So I was like, I'm just gonna go with it and not worry about it. I did decide to put the cookie stroll sign up on fun foam, and it's going to cover up that seam perfectly. And then from there, I'm gonna add the 2 photos with the cookies. I'm gonna pull out my flip flop so that I am able to showcase 2 additional photos of the cookies themselves. And then for the right-hand side, I'm gonna do the same thing with the food. I'm gonna first start out with our participation prize. And again, that is the holiday cookie stroll cookie batter that we can make cookies with, and it came with sprinkles as well as M&Ms. And then in the center, there is a photo. This is a photo collage that was made from the photos that we took in front of the tree. And at the top of it, it actually has a plate of cookies, which I really liked. And then again, adding the photo of the food that we had as well, because when we did do the cookie stroll, if we just ate all of those cookies, we would be in a sugar coma. So we had to make sure that we had some type of food in our system as well, like real food, not just sugar cookie food. So I am gonna use the flip flap on those photos as well. And then I'm gonna pull out my T-square ruler to make sure that everything is down straight. I did like the fact that there was a little bit of that wood grain on that photo in the center, and I was able to overlap it with the steam from the cocoa. I had done some batch journaling, and I actually printed a little bit of head, so I do have that, and I knew I wanted to tuck it into the holiday cookie stroll title, so I laid that down to test it out. But then I decided that I would put the rest of the embellishments down first. Over on the left-hand side, I'm going to start with my embellishment clusters. The sketch called for some embellishment clusters right underneath the photos. However, I knew that wasn't going to work for me since I had moved my photos down a little too much. So I decided that I was going to do my embellishment clusters on the left and right of the photo. I started out with the Mickey ears over on the right, which I absolutely loved. And then on the left-hand side, I pulled out the wreath as well as the little star and the mug of hot cocoa that has the candy cane in it. I did pull out my bottle caps. I purchased these at Hobby Lobby, but I don't think they're available anymore. However, I do have them linked below in my Amazon storefront, and I love the texture that they add to these flare from Kellybell Designs. So the circle piece that I added to the bottle cap says, "Life is short, eat the cookies now," which, you know, that's always a great advice. And then I'm going to start to adhere the clusters down. I do decide to put the wreath down flat, and then I have the star as well as the cup of cocoa up on fun foam. Because the cup of cocoa is overlapping the star, I just needed some fun foam on the bottom of it. And then I'm gonna add my little bottle cap down to overlap the wreath right next to the star. Then I decided that I would start to build up the cluster on the far right-hand side. I started with this green floral, and I did use my poker tool to curl up the edges to give it a little bit of dimension. And I'm also gonna have a bottle cap on this side, and this little circle says, "Nothing's better than holidays at Disney." And the bottle caps are 1 inch. So when you print out these little circles, you just need to make sure that they're 1 inch and they will fit perfectly inside the bottle cap. I also decided to add a little cookie down to that area as well. And that's going to cover up both sides of the layout where I needed to piece the paper together. The sketch called for a half circle at the top of the layout, but I decided that I was going to add a row of cookies because that's what this layout's all about, is these cookies. I ended up adding 15 cookies to the top of the layout. I had printed out the cookies in 3 different sizes, and all I did was once I got all the cookies on my mat, I just selected them all, duplicated them, and then made them a little bit smaller, duplicated the ones that I had just made a little bit smaller, and made those a little bit smaller. So I had very similar sizes to all of the cookies. Once I got some of the cookies down, I decided that I needed to put the cookies that I had left in order to try to figure out a configuration that I wanted to use for this row of cookies. And then on the right hand side, I decided that I would just repeat the cookies that I have on the left. Now I am putting the cookies flat to the layout, as well as using some foam adhesive from scrapbook.com and some fun foam. The foam adhesive that I'm using from scrapbook.com is 1 millimeter, and then the fun foam is probably like 2.5 millimeters because it's a little bit bigger than the 2 millimeter. But I love the variation of heights from the flat cookies as well as the 2 different heights that I'm getting from the foam adhesive and the fun foam. I did decide to go a little bit further on the right hand side than I did the left because I stopped at the blue paper on the left, but I went all the way to almost the edge of the photos on the right hand side. Then I'm going to start to work on my journaling for this particular layout. I do have a tutorial on how I create these journal strips. I will link it here for you. Also linked in the description below is Nicole's Facebook group. She created the spreadsheet that I use to print out these journaling strips. You will need to go to her Facebook group to get the Google Sheet template so that you can use it with this die. I love having my journaling on these strips. As you can see here, I nestled the journaling strips into my title cluster. So it almost looks like my journaling is coming out from my title, and I just love that look. So I'm going to start to get the journaling strips down, and at this point I'm going to feel like I lost my mind. I know that I have another strip. It's the very first word. I look for it. I actually sped this up quite a bit, but I finally find it on my trimmer because apparently I didn't take it off after I cut off the edges. But I do finally get that last journaling strip down. Then I'm going to go back to the left-hand side of the layout and start to work on that cluster. I'm adding the little Mickey ears flat down to the layout. And then I'm also going to add this really pretty star flat down as well. When I was working with this star, it has a look as if it is almost a shaker piece, and I thought it would be really cool if you printed out a second one and added the shaker pieces to it. I've never done that before, but it's on my list of things to try out with some of these embellishments. I also pulled out this little tag here that says cookies and cocoa, even though we didn't have cocoa while we were doing our cookie stroll. But I mean, cookies and cocoa always go together. I also decided to add a candy cane to this cluster as well. I felt like I had some drop space in there. I was trying to find something that would work. At the top of the layout, I added the little tag that says favorite, and it's pointing to my very favorite cookie that we tried. And then in the cookie area, I thought that I would add some additional embellishment pieces. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time adding some things to include some stars as well as some flowers. I'm going to add another tag that says Christmas cookies. Over on the right hand side, I'm going to add a word phrase that says Christmas at EPCOT as well as most magical time of the year. I'm also going to add a little half circle that says feel the holiday cheer and a red star as well as a yellow floral. So I was really just kind of filling in the space that was there from the different cookie pieces. Below the photo of our food, I have a little tag that says eat, drink, and be merry. So right next to my journaling, I decided to add another little cookie because I had a couple extras and I thought, why not add more cookies to this layout? And I also decided to add a cookie next to that eat, drink, and be merry. I felt like the title cluster could use that red star, so I added that. And then underneath the photo of Eli and I added a half circle that says a Disney exclusive. And then of course I'm gonna have to add this little tag that says everything tastes better at Disney because that is absolutely a true statement. I'm I'm going to continue to add some embellishments to the top part of the layout. I feel like you could really add as many embellishments as you want in this particular area, because it just lends to having all kinds of embellishments at the top. Now, we do the cookie stroll every year. Every year the participation prize is a little bit different. There's been times when we've gotten like a free drink or a free pastry item. This is the first time that we actually got like something that we had to come home and bake ourselves, which I thought that was pretty cool. Definitely if you are not local, I think that would be really cool, because it's something that you could take home and have at home, and then, you know, kind of bring back that magic of Disney once your vacation is over. I will tell you that this was last year, so 2024, when we did this cookie stroll, and we still have that package of cookies. We never made them. All right, I did decide to bring out my wood veneer, and I added some cork hearts around the layout. And then I decided to pull out my color boxes in blue, red, and green and add some enamel dots all around the layout. I was adding them to each one of the clusters. I was adding it to the top part of the layout. I definitely did not follow the rule of thirds with this layout. There are clusters all over this layout, but I love the way that it turned out. I also realized that I really didn't pay attention to where my flip-flops are going to be, so I'm covering up that space as well. All right, and then that is it for this video. Here is my final layout, as well as some close-ups. I did forget to read my journaling earlier, so it says, Eli and I set off on the holiday cookie stroll at the EPCOT International Festival of the Holidays. With our festival passport in hand, we navigated our way to discover a variety of tasty cookies. At the end of our stroll, we were rewarded with a cookie mix. All right, if you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.